So Midsommar is a new movie from filmmaker Ari Astar, who burst onto the scene last year? Yeah, last year, with Hereditary, a movie that a lot of people liked and a lot of people hated. And Midsommar is quite similar in this regard. After watching the movie, I can't help but feel like this is a movie that is going to be for a specific audience. I can't help but feel like this movie is going to be polarizing. An average, normal audience member will probably go into this and want to die because it is very slow and it is very long and it is very unconventional.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity and I decided to do it.
I don't mind you going. I just wish you would have told me, that's all.
The general story of it is pretty straightforward. It's just about a couple of college students that go off to Sweden for a little kind of ritual, midsummer festivity thing. And they go off because one of them's writing a thesis and one of them is thinking about writing a thesis. And they go there to try and write their thesis about it. And that's essentially the story. But this story is something that isn't uncommon in horror movies, where characters go to a place that isn't what it seems. I mean, you got Get Out with a character going to a place and it's weird and things are off, or A Cure for Wellness where a character goes to a place and things are weird. And that's essentially what Midsommar is. It's just a movie about people going to a place that's weird. But it's 2.5 hours long. And that's essentially my biggest problem with it, and really my only problem with it, right now at least. The pacing and the length. I think it could be trimmed down. I think 2.5 hours is too much, and in the middle of the movie, I didn't feel like there was quite enough going on to justify some of the length of the scenes. You get the first 30 minutes or so, maybe 45, where a lot happens. It's very dark. There's a lot of gruesome stuff. And the last 45 minutes or so to an hour is the same way, dark and gruesome. But there's just this chunk, like 30 minutes or so in the middle, that kind of drags. And it loses me just a little bit, and then it got me back again. But other than that, this movie does just about everything that you could want. The cinematography is jaw-dropping at times. There is one transition when our main character, played by Florence Pugh, Florence Pugh, if that's how you pronounce her last name, if not, whatever, she's killing it this year. She had a great TV show called Little Drummer Girl that's directed by Chan-wook Park. That's a great show. Go watch that show. And she's great in this movie, as are most of the other performances. Great performances, but there's one scene when she's going into the bathroom because she's about to have a hysterical fit, and this camera is following her up top, and then it pans down hard, and it transitions into her in another bathroom, but on a plane on their way to Sweden. Right after she was talking about going with them to Sweden, because she initially wasn't going to. And it was such an incredible transition. It had me going like this for 5 straight minutes, just going, it was so brilliant. Wow, so brilliant. I mean, it's so well directed. I can't believe Ari Astar has only made 2 movies. The movie's gorgeous. It's shot incredibly well. The music is great. All the locations are gorgeous. The set design is really weird and interesting, and I loved it. The costumes are really weird and interesting, and I love them.
It's sort of a crazy festival. Special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
Who you kidding? What are you out of your mind?
And the characters too, while I don't feel like they're super complex or well developed or 3-dimensional, I think they do serve a very specific purpose to the movie that works very well. I mean, the main character is essentially just having hysterical fits for the whole movie. She is distraught after losing basically everyone she loved in her family, and her boyfriend, who is just a douchebag. So she's distraught, she's hysterical, she's crying all the time, and her boyfriend is just this distant, cold douchebag who clowns on everyone around him and steals their ideas. So they're not complex, but they serve a distinct purpose to the movie, and I think it works for this because the story is what's sort of driving the movie. And that is one thing that I'm nervous about. I want to rewatch this again, but I'm not sure how it will play as far as the story goes, because the biggest thing for me that kept me going through this incredibly lengthy and slow runtime was being interested to see where it would go next. And that's not to say I found it unpredictable. I honestly found it very predictable. It basically gives away its hand in the first 30 minutes or so intentionally. It essentially tells you exactly what's going to happen from the get-go. So you honestly know what's going to happen before it does. But at the same time, how it gets there is so weird and unorthodox that I found myself invested in just how it was going to get the places it told us it was going to get to. But on a second viewing, I'm not sure that that will work as well, because obviously I've seen it all. I know what's going to happen beat for beat, and going through this unorthodox journey again, knowing where it's going to go, knowing the turns it's going to take, knowing the places that the characters will end up, I'm not sure I will be that invested in the story anymore. And the characters, again, are simplistic, so I'm not sure I will get much out of them. But on the other side of the coin, I also have no idea what this is honestly going for. So there's that. I could go in waiting for that, looking for that. Gotta go in, look for the runes, check out the runes, figure out what it's trying to say about grief or mental illness or whatever, because it's clearly going for something with that.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
But anyway, that's essentially my thoughts on Midsommar. I don't have a ton to say about it, despite it being so long. It's just very good. It's not scary per se. It's not jump scary. It's not super suspenseful, although there are suspenseful moments. It's mostly just going for disturbing. There's a lot of horrific imagery in this, and it really does go for it as far as gruesome things happening. There are some legitimately like disgusting things that it just shows you, which I was a big fan of. Most of the time in horror movies, it just implies things, or you hear something happen and you don't really see it. But this movie makes a point of showing things happening, and it's shocking, and it works really great. And it's really well made, and the acting is great, and the messaging, it's there. I can tell it's there. So, although I need to see it again, and I don't know if this rating will stick, I doubt it will, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. Light 8, maybe. I'm leaning towards maybe an 8, but I'm going to stick with 7 until I see it again, and then I'll decide whether it goes up or stays the same. But this movie has me thinking. So that's a good sign. It's a great sign. It's more than I can really say about Hereditary, so...